Hi, my name is Lauren, and today we find out, can you buy an isolated power supply for $100? So the answer is yes. Yes, you can buy an isolated power supply under the Joyo brand name for $99.99 on Amazon, or in my case, with the use of the Honey Chrome extension, I actually got this for $79.99 with some discount that was applied with that plug-in. So all total, I think I paid like $83.40 with New York's sales tax. This has five DC center negative outputs at 9 volts, 100 milliamps, which will run, your distortions or your tuner or your low power draw pedals. And then it has 2 taps at 9 volts at 250 milliamp, which will run most digital pedals. You really couldn't run like some higher, some like line 6 stuff off of this, but it'll run like your DD7s, DD8 Boss pedals, probably even your DD500s, although I'm not sure off the top of my head what they draw. I was able to run both a Grand Canyon and an Oceans 12 off of this, so it will run those just fine. And then you get an eighth power tap that's either 12 or 18 volts at 100 milliamps. And with a voltage divider, you could make that eighth tap usable for yet another 9V pedal. I'll show you how that would work here in a minute. On the back, you have an IEC input and output, so you can daisy chain these underneath a pedal board. And kind of something that seems to be pretty unique on this is that it actually has a power switch right over here, which I don't know if that's really common on power supplies. My True Tones do not have it. So what does isolated mean? Well, isolated means that each power tap on this does not share a ground. So the center taps, if you were to take a multimeter, set it in continuity mode, so it beeps when you touch. And I'll show you an example. When you use these daisy chains, these are not isolated, at least from each other. So if I shove the center of one of this in there, carefully, it's not the greatest test. Then I shove the other one in the bottom, you get a beep. However, when you plug 2 cords into this, and I'll just take a couple that I have sitting here on my desk. When you take 2 cords that are plugged into this, and you shove your multimeter into the center of each, no beep. And that's good. That means it's isolated. What does that translate to in terms of real-world performance? Well, that means less noise between pedals. You won't run into any of that nasty kind of digital whining that you sometimes get with some, certain digital pedals. They don't like to share power with other pedals. It's usually fine for overdrives and a lot of analog pedals. At least that's what I've found. But once you get up to some nicer pedals, you really want to spend some money on some good power. So I mentioned the price on this before, and for that price, you get 8 outputs. They're all DC power. If you have something like an old Digitech Whammy, the 4 and older, I believe, that requires AC power, and you might want to consider something nicer. Now, the price difference on this power supply compared to what I was just holding up is pretty dramatic. This was $180. However, as you can see, you get 2 18-volt power supply lines. You get 5 9V 100 milliamp power supplies, one of them which is variable. So if you have like an old fuzz that you want to simulate a dying battery with, you can do that on this one. And these 5 are all selectable from 9V or 12V with the little dip switches on the back. And then you have four 9-volt taps. No, excuse me, 3 9-volt taps that are 250 milliamp, one 9-volt tap that is 500 milliamps, and then unique to this power supply, and I don't believe that the other True Tone power supplies have it, is a 9-volt AC output, and that's at 800 milliamps. And that connection is needed for pedals like I said, the Digitech Whammy 4 off the back of my hand. I think some Line 6, like the M9, I think, might be AC power driven. I know that the old like green Line 6 delay, I'm pretty sure that is an AC power adapter. And it's very important that you use the proper power supply for the pedal, or you could actually fry it. The other power supply I own is a True Tone One Spot CS6. It is significantly thinner than the two power supplies that you see before you. However, as the name implies, that power supply only has 6 outputs. However, it is meant to fit under pedals, smaller pedal boards, such as the Pedal Train Nano, or I think the Metro is pretty low to the ground. It will fit underneath those power supplies, and my experience with it has been great. It's been nice and quiet. I've been happy with the purchase. And I'll just go ahead and show what all in all I'm powering off of it. Let me make sure that's centered. So I've got Rubberneck, which is an analog pedal, Mod 11. This is a Blues Driver clone that I built, the Abasi Pathos, and a Hardwire tuner. And it powers all that without a problem. So we're actually going to be building a pedal board with the power supply that I just held up, this guy, next week. And just waiting for some parts for that. And it's going to be more of a beginner pedal board that I'm giving away to somebody, a young kid. Won't be able to film that, but that's all right. And so far, what I've tested with it has been really nice and silent. I have 5 pedals running through it, and it's been great. So the question comes, though, should you buy this pedal supply, or should you spend a little more and get like the True Tone CS7 for an extra $40 to $20? And the answer is, I'm not sure, because this does seem like a pretty decent power supply. It seems like it's a clone. I can definitely tell from the weight of it that this is transformer based. This does not feel like a switching power supply. So this is pretty heavy, but this reminds me, like I said, of the Voodoo Labs stuff. That stuff is transformer based, and that's tried and true for, has been for years. So I mentioned that you could use all 8 power taps on 9-volt pedals. And what that would require is called a voltage divider. And that looks like this. I don't know. Voodoo Lab probably sells something like this. But I think this little guy costs around $15. And what you would do is you would flip the switch down to 18 volts. And when you plug this in, this will divide that voltage, that 18 volts, down to 9. And voila, all 8 outputs can now be used for 8 9-volt pedals. So, yeah, I think it was a good buy. I think it's going to perform quite well on the pedal board I'm planning on building. It's kind of a lame video this week, but figured I would just share what I thought of the product. I think it's a good product. Time will tell, though. So, yeah, thanks for watching, As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for that pedalboard build next week, or I don't know, maybe I'll get to it this week. So, yeah, thanks.